The adoption of the agenda, can I get a motion on that? Everybody's putting their hand up. Councillor Long.
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
All right. Any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Can you use your mic, please?
Carried. We have no scheduled delegations. Do we have any public delegations? No, okay. We'll move on then to 3.1, our peace officers report. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Courtley.
I didn't even have my hand up. The
I can
council
see your
received the
eyes.
senior police officers October and November 2019 reports for information.
All right. Okay, is there anything you'd like to draw to our attention on this?
Other than our vagrancy and loitering due to the weather is starting to pick up. And plus there's some other issues with teenage kids causing issues at the local stores. So. We've been asked to serve ban notices to a number of teenagers. Just on the request of the business owners. We've issued probably 8 to date. And there's a couple of adults too that we've been dealing with also for that same reason. But other than that, straightforward. Any questions from council?
All right, anybody have questions? Councillor Gilroy.
Is there a certain time of the day that apparently these young people are causing disturbances? Is it during school hours? Is it between
Lunchtime.
lunchtime mainly?
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering if it was after school before hockey started or stuff like that. That would have been interesting.
I said between the two times.
Okay. I was wondering a little bit where you have these trials. We had in October 12 trials and November was 10 trials, but there was no costs associated with any of those. How does that work where we don't have a cost?
They would be provincial charges. No, they weren't bylaws.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So we don't have a lawyer present. You're just there, like our.
It's the provincial crown that runs those.
Okay.
The only time we have charges is when we have bylaw infractions that are, yeah.
Okay.
Another point I'll bring out is we're getting quite a few logging trucks in our town now. We're noticing quite a few infractions here at especially at these lights, turning south. So we're dealing them as we see, and on complaint basis too. So hopefully the message gets out there that you have to stay on the truck road. Other than that, fairly business as usual.
Okay. All right, any others? No other questions? Oh, that was easy for you. Yeah, too easy. Councillor Gilroy.
Knowing that we're having more trucks, and they're not full of hockey players, but knowing we have more trucks, are the signs big enough to let them know that that is a truck turning area? Do we need to do something to make it more aware for the new truckers who are coming through town? I'm just curious. I'm not accusing us of not having appropriate ones, but if we have a lot more trucks coming in and newer truck people, maybe we need.
No turns should be sufficient. Right? They're on every corner, plus they're on the 749 on the outside of across the tracks, and they got some down here by the playground here too.
Okay, because I was thinking that the one outside opposite Grimshaw, unless I really looked sometimes, I don't even think of that as a truck bypass.
Yeah.
We have a trucker here that could add to it a little bit.
Yeah, but he lives here.
Living here has nothing to do with it. All the log hauls have specific truck routes, and it shows the bypassing the truck routes. They're not allowed to come into town and turn left at the lights because they're off their truck route.
Okay.
And they're green lined right on their maps that they have to carry with them. It shows the path that they have to travel. So immediately, as soon as they turn the lights, they're off their truck route.
Okay, anything else before we move on? I see nothing else, so we had a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? Carried. Now we'll get to the one we've really been waiting on, is the fire chief's report. Can I get a motion on that one? Yeah.
He's
Need a motion? Councillor Courtley.
The council received the fire chief's November 2019 report for information.
All right. We'll turn it over to you first to highlight anything you want, and we'll grill you with questions after.
All right, super. So I'll just kind of touch on a couple of things here. I've had 4 meetings up to now, actually 5, because we had a meeting today with the new county chief, and it's very encouraging. He's a very positive person to work with, so I foresee hopefully a good working relationship with him. So that's something to look forward to. In November there we had a fit test done, which is basically testing the face piece for the firefighters, and our society has decided that we're going to take steps to try and make it more convenient. So we're looking at purchasing the unit in conjunction with the county, and that will hopefully make the process a lot easier, because right now, in order for us to have this process happen, according to HNS, it has to happen yearly, and we have to coordinate 30 people to come in one day, and our folks did it, but that was very good of them, but I don't foresee it as being something that's going to be easily done from year to year. So since we have to do it year to year, we're going to look at improving it by purchasing a unit, and we're also kind of reaching out to some of the offering services to some of the businesses that have to do that too. So, and that's a society that is doing this, not the town department kind of thing. So we're doing that. We had actually good attendance at the Christmas light up, and I almost felt like the numbers were down for attendance in the hall. It just didn't seem like it was as full, but I would probably attribute that to a little bit colder than previous years. So that's just kind of some of the things that we had going on. If you look at our town calls, basically mostly monitored alarms this time around. Look at our county calls for the month, and a lot of our vehicle calls and MVCs that we are called out to are animal strikes, because the animals are wandering around a whole lot more. So we're trying to sort of encourage people to pay attention to the driving and the animals on the road. A couple of highlights for the year. Obviously, Ken retired. I took over in August, and after 3 months, I'm still here. So I must be doing something right, I guess. So far, anyhow, right? We had an incident with the old town pump that I would like to just bring to council's, I guess, information so that they are aware the decision to purchase a new truck with this incident could have gone really bad. And with the newer truck, newer technology, this incident should not ever happen. And basically what happened was one of our drivers parked the truck, that pulled the air brake, didn't come all the way out, had the pump engaged, and the truck started to roll away on scene. So we have started wheel chocking the vehicle, but with the newer vehicles, that's basically impossible to happen. With the older vehicles, particularly the older truck that we have, Pump 2, which we are replacing, that can't happen. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of information to I guess, inform you that you have made a right decision in replacing that old truck in the interest of safety for our firefighters. So just something I want to touch on. Our roster is at, actually I have 30 members. That's including everybody from junior firefighters. We have 2 junior firefighters and 28 members. So our roster is healthy. And in that, if you've noticed, practice evenings, the parking lot is generally full. So we've got a great bunch of people, and the community and you as council can be rest assured that we've got a fantastic group of people that are dedicated to providing the service to our community. So it's really, really encouraging. I had a meeting with a gentleman from AHS, and he informed me a little bit of information about the MCR program, and it's basically a mutual, I guess, medical co-response with AHS and the ambulance service. My concern, and I made it quite clear that I didn't want to join onto this program to increase our call volume for medical calls. We have responded to medical calls, if you can see on our listing, but it's at the absolute need. We are not there to replace EMS. Basically, if they need to have assistance, we're there to help them. But I made it clear that we don't want to be responding to a huge number of calls. The advantage of getting onto the MCR program is they will supply us access to product and services and training. For example, when Ken was looking after stuff, we have naloxone kits that were expired, and in order for us to get new ones, it was about $150. If you get on with the MCR program, basically I got 2 kits supplied free of cost. So we can determine the scope of our response, what we're going to respond to, what we're not going to respond to, and we can tweak it. It's not committing us to having our members trained at an EMR or higher level. All of our members are trained to standard first aid, which meets their requirements. So there's a lot of good, I think, in signing on with this. It allows us online access to various training stuff. So I am definitely considering that, but I made it quite clear that we're not interested in increasing medical calls, but we are there to help medical calls. So. If you look at the graphs, I kind of did a year profile. The first graph is a county call profile and the town call profile, and I tried to make sure the colors match the same call type, I guess, if you want to call it something. So general calls are, what's that, 11 county county MVC, and you can see obviously the motor vehicle accidents that we respond to are way higher in the county than are in town. Structures are actually fairly close. False alarms, town by far outdoes the county, and obviously there's not a whole lot of wild land in town. mostly in the county. So that just gives you a visual of our call response, of what types of calls that and we've broken them down into those ones, those general ones, just for ease of data. And on the following page, you can see that I split it up between town and county based on call numbers and hours. So if you look at the call numbers, they're fairly close. We have a few more town calls, and I guess basically if you want to attribute that, that's going to be attributed to monitored alarms. And the number of hours spent is higher in the county. And I could possibly attribute that to, if we go in for grass fires, you're typically spending more time doing those kind of fires than other things that we're doing in town. So that'll be my summary.
Great, thank you very much. Open for questions, comments. Councillor Stenhouse.
Regarding your agreement with AHS, I agree with you on there. They're looking at integrated services, and as far as Narcan kits go, any pharmacy, anyone can get a Narcan kit free of charge. It's all sponsored by the government, so you guys can pick up free Narcan kits at any pharmacy. No need for any kind of licensing for that.
Okay, that's information, because when Ken was searching for Narcan, because they were expired, any response that he got was it's going to cost $150 or something like that. So
Yeah.
no, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's a new program that's been come out, and
Okay.
people, you can go, like I say, you can go to any pharmacy and pick up Narcan kits.
Other questions, comments? I had just a couple. It's great to see that we've got full numbers, 30 plus members there you were talking about, which is fantastic, and it's great. Person was saying, there's a person in town that can't get on. He's on, quote, a wait list. And I went, I've never heard that we have a wait list. But I'm just wondering, do we have a wait list now, or is that?
I have not had any fresh new applications come in, so I have no knowledge of that.
Oh, okay.
And that particular person has not put their application forward. Any applications that we have active right now. So
Okay. Like I say, that was just a comment made to me, and like I just said, I've never heard of that, but I'll ask about it. So. And the other thing, I just wanted to, it was great that you guys, were volunteered for the light up, and it was packed in there and stuff. So it was great for that, and also I know that you guys were out at the volunteering for the food bank and getting stuff at Friesen Brothers, so thank you for that. Also, thank the members. It was great to have that assistance out there on those two good causes.
Thank you. And I'll just add, your suggestion of that little silhouette cutout was actually, I think, a very good hit for the younger and older people. Enjoyed sticking their face in there and getting their pictures taken. So thank you for that idea.
Yeah, right on. Good. Okay, no other questions I see, so we have a motion to receive for information from Councillor Courtley. All those in favor? It's carried. We move on to item 5.1, which is our November minutes. Councillor Long?
That council approved the minutes from the November 26, 2019 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any comments on this? Any changes, alterations? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? That is carried. We have our special meeting of council. Councillor Stenhouse?
That council approved the minutes from the November 25th, 2019 special meeting of council as presented.
All right. Any changes, alterations to that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moving on to, first, is there any business arising from the minutes? Somebody want to? No, seeing none, we'll move on then to new business, which is LAPP. Get a motion on that one? I see people smiling but not wanting to put up their hands. All right, we've got to get a motion to get the ball rolling. Councillor Long.
That council approved adopting LAP as the retirement benefit for full-time staff effective January 1st, 2020.
Okay, go ahead.
That being said, what's the position from our CAO on this?
It'll definitely be a big hit to council and to our budget. So I believe in here the increase was going to be an additional 127,000.
Yeah.
Onto what council is currently approving at the 5%. So that is above and beyond the 5% that you're contributing right now, which is matched by the staff. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? He's just going to finish and then you can go.
Go ahead.
So then are you saying that this is something you don't recommend that we do?
I would recommend that you do it. It's definitely had more positive response from the full-time employees after they were given the various sessions by the ladies that come in to present. And I guess off the get-go, it would be a budgeting thing for employees,
Yeah.
if it was approved, because obviously the numbers have increased substantially that on their contributions also.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Gilroy.
Just a couple of concerns due to recent emails that we've seen, where we could be losing quite a bit of financial support through taxation and that. First of all, can we really afford this financially? It's nothing to do with, I have no problem with our staffing. It's just, can we afford this is number one. And number two, if this is all the staff, is any portion of the LAP going to be recoverable from the county through rec department requisitions?
I believe some of it would be on their employees, on their full-time employees. They would be requested to pay a portion.
It'd be 2.5 then for them, 2.5 for us.
No, they're paying their portion now on the 5%.
I'm talking the additional 127,000.
It would be very minimal towards the counties because they have so few of permanent employees.
Councillor Stenhouse.
So I read all this report in everyone's evaluation, and it's not all the staff. All staff did not show up, and not all are in agreement that did. So is this a all or none, even though those who aren't in will be with that? And my other question is, they did a review on, like you said, they did a good presentation on the LAP. Was there a good presentation on the RRSP plan that we are in right now?
There was, yeah. When they did the RRSP plan from the bank, the ladies that were here from the bank said that if you wanted, you could up the benefits, basically. It'd be a cost to the municipality, but you can up the benefits to the employees, whether it be dental, whatever classes. So it was all full-time staff were invited to attend, and they were asked to attend. Whether they choose to or not, that was up to them. So.
I'll just put in my comments. I know that, we asked for this to be looked at, and I think if my memory sort of serves right, like we had, we had done something where we got the same benefits, but we got a better rate when we looked at them. And this was, well, can we get the same benefit or get more benefits for the same rate? It was sort of what we were thinking and saying, let's look at that. And now what we're coming back with is that, yeah, we can get more benefits, but it's going to cost more money, is the way I'm sort of getting at that. So it's, we knew you could get more if you paid more, and I think that was part of the, what's the word, we had asked, I think, in council to say, you know what, before you get all of the employees too excited, you should be talking to us first. And then they chose to go the other way, and now I feel, it's council's put into a harder spot to say yes or no to something like that. But, okay.
We did relay to the staff that it ultimately was a council decision. So after I did the RFD, I was thinking of other ways. So what council may want to look at is increasing the RSP portion that we already are in. You don't have to be held to lap, but maybe you want to increase it to, say, 7%, matching with the town. And I asked Anita to do a rough estimate for me on the, say, another 2% increase, and she said it would be about another $48,000 per year. That's at 2%. So I'm not saying you have to be held to 2%. Could be 1%. It's a council decision. So.
Okay. And in some ways, I know that the LAPP is one of the premier pension plans out there, right? I mean, it's well recognized, and I know that it makes it a lot easier to recruit, but it is a high cost associated with that. Now, there was 3 plans that they looked at, in my understanding. What was the other one that they had looked at?
That's only 2.
Oh, it was only 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was 3. That was... We'll get back to you. I just wanted to finish off. So, that was it. The price... Oh, okay, I think that's what I had written down. Councillor Gilroy?
Is there anything that any extra product we can get through AUMA or their insurance companies or their companies at all that may be comparable? For example, in my other job, we just actually did all these things again, and actually I got more benefits and it's costing me less. And so I'm just wondering if we went to AUMA and said, this is what we want to do. Do you have something that can help us out? Would that be a good third option?
It probably would be, but I would say that they were looking at for their retirement packages, basically how much.
Does AUMA cover that though?
They wouldn't cover the.
They don't deal with that?
No. They will direct you in their packages to provide better dental coverage as whatever as a whole, as a group, if you want. But I believe we're in that already. So.
Councillor Courtley?
Am I misunderstanding this? Are they upset with what's already in place?
No, they're not. The council had asked for options, and basically, on the questionnaire, we asked if they were interested in LAP, and they're not disappointed in what we have now, but
Yeah, because I think that's absurd, the amount of difference. That's crazy, especially this day and ages. I mean, the RSP program, 5% each is a pretty good deal, in my mind. That's a lot of money. Besides going to the other, I would be interested in looking at 1%, just with the system we have. And I don't. That's a pile of money. 246,000 more annually.
Yep, it is.
That's a hell of a raise. And in times when it's not comfortable. Go ahead.
Councillor Danaka.
We have so many unknowns going into 2020 in terms of what kind of monies we're going to have, what we have to spend. The AUMA did the cost estimate for policing. 2020 is going to be almost 50,000. Then it goes to 95,000. Then we're looking at 130,000. So we've got that expense. We don't know what we're getting from the MSI, what cuts we have. The Heart River Housing, who's increasing their requisition, which sounds like we have to accept it. So we're dispensing all this money that I don't necessarily think we can afford to expend. If the employees are not disappointed in what we have now, I would say let's keep what we have, because I mean each year this is going to go up and up and up. 127,000 for 2020, and then next 2021, what are we at? What are we going to be at? 135,000. It's just going to keep increasing. And in all honesty, as much as I would like to say this would be a great incentive and a great perk to being a town employee, we just cannot afford that kind of hit.
Other comments on this one? Okay, we have a motion to call the question. There's no debate other than a vote. Do we want to end the debate on this topic? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, we'll call the question. We have a motion to approve LAP benefits for full-time benefits, or for full-time staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is defeated. Move on to chemo services and Helipad project. Councillor Danaka.
Make a motion that council send a letter of support to the High Prairie and District Health Foundation showing support for the lobbying of receiving chemotherapy services and the construction of the helipad at the High Prairie Health Complex.
Thank you. Okay, anything to add to that?
just that that committee wanted, they brought in a letter and they wanted it dispersed through council itself, but we felt that it would be better to get it out in the public and forward a letter of support on to them, so that's why we added it to the agenda.
Councillor Stenhouse.
So what are they asking AHS to build this helipad?
I believe the county have already started raising funds already through the golf tournaments and whatever.
Yeah, I understand that, but I still have issues with this helipad. As it should have been in the construction of the hospital, but it wasn't. But they've just done a major expansion at the airport. why can it not land at the airport? Transport time is 5 minutes. Is it worth this kind of money to build a helipad to save 5 minutes transport time?
You've been on that road?
Pardon me?
Have you been on that road to the airport? It's atrocious.
We've been doing transports out of that airport since the beginning of time.
I know.
So
Been there.
I see these some helipads at other hospital sites that are sit there. What is the amount of usage from this helipad? That's a lot of money to invest in a helipad, which should have been AHS's problem in the first place.
You're not.
Okay, we'll go with Councillor Gilroy, then Councillor Long.
Yes. All due respect to Councillor Stenhouse, having talked extensively with the hospital administration and with a lot of others, first of all, it is something that they really would like to have there. Secondly, we have to remind ourselves that when STARS was here reporting not too long ago, they said that they would be involved in this. And thirdly, I don't see a price tag attached. They're not asking us for any money right now. They're asking us for a letter of support, and then we can deal with that when it actually comes. A letter of support, I believe, costs us nothing, and I like the fact that it's got both of those, or a couple different things in there that we can work together on.
Councillor Long.
You're not incorrect that AHS should have paid for it. It should have been built in when they built the hospital. It didn't. And that's unfortunate, but we're seeing now more and more with this government downloading responsibilities onto the community, such as policing, such as things like a helipad, which isn't a want, it's a need. And that golden hour, getting that person en route and to the hospital they need to be at is essential. So the 10-minute ride from the airport to here, that's a huge and a rough ride when you're a patient. It sucks. So we do need that helipad, I think. It's unfortunate that we're stuck having to fundraise and do hot dog sales for life and death situations that this government doesn't think is important. Sucks. But we voted them in.
Okay, I'll add in some of my thoughts on it. Is the first comment is that although I don't have a problem, and we have been lobbying for dialysis and helipads already, so that's not a big deal, but I think we can't lose focus that we have not got dialysis yet. And I think that's still got to be the #1 priority until there's somebody sitting in a chair getting some dialysis done, because when I listened to the announcement, it was saying, you know, we're counting on AHS to find the funds to make this, to operate it in High Prairie. That's a long ways away from saying, yeah, they will have the funds. So it's a big step, and I think that's got to be our #1 focus for the next year. And I think we need to relay that to the Health Foundation. Is I don't want to just forget about dialysis until it's there. And then I think we also need to focus on, you know, just one. If we are, I mean, we can have two, but if we should prioritize those two, you know, the chemo or the helipad, and say which one is #1 and which one's #2. Because if you focus on one thing, you're a little bit better likely to achieve it. Not that you forget about the other one, but if you're going to fundraise, what are you fundraising for? What's the focus going to be? You can keep them both going, but have a focus on one of them. And for me, I would think the helipad might be more important, but I mean, that's debatable and open to discussion. So those would be my two provisions on putting a letter out there to this group. Councillor Long?
The two issues, the helipad, dialysis, and chemo, the three issues, they should not be inextricably linked. It shouldn't be this one or this one or this one. We have the ability, I think, as a community to assess the needs that we need, and that is dialysis, that is chemo, that is a helipad. and those are things that we need. And so I would, for the people who are suffering with dialysis, they also, I think, would understand when we raise the issues of chemo. They know that it's something we need. The people who need chemo also realize that people with dialysis are in need. And so we have that ability, I think, to focus on the three and aggressively pursue it. And if we pursue it aggressively enough, it'll force the government to choose. And they'll get those things going for us. They'll get the dialysis in place, and then we can focus on to the next. But if we don't keep at it, then they'll say, well, where were you 3 years ago? Why weren't you talking about a helipad then? And so I think we should be hitting them with everything that we got.
No, I don't know if I explained myself. I agree with you. I do. I just think if we're, for example, fundraising and we're raising money, are we raising money for a chemo facility, or are we raising money for a helipad? You can't sort of be raising a little bit here and a little bit here. I think it's better to focus on your fundraising and activities on one. Not that we forget to lobby the government for both. That's not what I'm saying. We got to keep on that, but I think there should be a focus on what you're going to go for as number one and get your group to push towards. That's mine.
We could sell Kenny Wieners, and we could sell them for fundraising. No? Just a thought.
Councillor Gilroy.
I, for one, would like to applaud the High Prairie District Community Health Foundation. This is part of their strategy, and we've been talking about it, and Councillor Rose has brought up a number of things on this particular committee that she's on. And so for them to come forward and say, this is our strategy, I think, and all the work they've done in the past to raise funds for whatever project we've needed, I think it validates who they are. And I think we need to support them just in the letter alone, just to validate who they are, because they are an important group that is really trying to help our healthcare in general. And if we need their support for something, it's like working with the county. If we work with the county, they're supposed to work with us. And so the more help we have in lobbying, the better for our people, better for our taxpayers.
Okay, any other questions on this one? Councillor Tanaka has made a motion to approve a letter to them. All of those in favor? Carried. Moving on to item 8.3, special meeting of council. Yeah, I need a motion first, just to get this going. Councillor Courtley?
The council call a special meeting to be held on January, to be announced, 2019, and to review the proposed 2020 operating budget.
It should be 2020, not 2019.
In January of 2020, yes.
Why did you write on mine?
Okay, Mr. Martin.
She's right. Should be 2020.
2020 hindsight.
Just to let you know that we did Skype Mr. McReynolds, who's the interim treasurer. Vernon, myself, and Shanda did that earlier last week, and we probably had at least a little over 2 hour meeting with him regarding the budget. And then after that, the government sent out the numbers on the policing, so we forwarded that. We did get numbers on MSI funding, so we did forward that stuff. So right now he's working on the capital budget for 2020 going forward, and we're all having another Skype session on this coming Friday to talk about that. So he said to basically pick a date that early January that you want to discuss the operating budget, and he said he'll probably have it locked down by then. So I don't know how long. It didn't sound like it was going to take very long in the evening to go through the budget again, because he's pretty much fine-tuned it now, so it was going well. And he wanted to know council's feeling, whether you wanted him to Skype that meeting or if you wanted him here in person. He just said if you do it by video or whatever, it's a lot cheaper, no travel, but that's council's decision. I said it was either way, didn't matter.
Okay, Councillor Corley.
Can we project it here, or do we have to have a TV set up?
I don't know if you
We could project it here as long as we got an internet connection here. Do we have an internet connection?
Yeah. Do you want to call it that? But we
Okay.
don't have an extra laptop.
You don't have what?
An extra laptop.
Oh, we only have one laptop?
There's one in the mayor's office.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could do it. Well, let's maybe focus on a date and then we can decide. I was looking at the dates and I noticed the dates in the calendar here. It isn't the second and fourth Tuesday. It was the first and third. So is that really a change?
No, that's my fault.
So that is an error?
Yes.
Yep.
It's
Oh, okay.
14th and the 28th.
Well, that's what I was wondering when I saw that. I went, okay. So if we're looking at a date, and I think it's great that you're setting the date now so we can keep on this budget process. So that's awesome. I really like that. So it doesn't get forgotten about until the end, and then we're rushing through it again. So that's very good. I'm thinking the third Tuesday, which would be the 21st. Does that work for people, the third Tuesday in January? I don't hear anybody saying no. So it would be, so in the motion we could, if Councillor Courtley would do an amendment, we could add the date in. Okay. So then the next question is, do we want to just have them in by phone or by Skype? Or do we want them here in person? Councillor Danaka?
My preference is to have him here. I've never met the man. Could be an informal meet, because I mean, this is the guy that's doing our budget.
He was okay with that, too.
It's just a cost. It's a cost, right?
For sure. But it's probably worth it to have them come up so that we can ask them questions.
Okay. So we're hearing that we'd prefer to have them here. Okay. Councillor Courtley?
You can ask any question you want over Skype. On and on and on. There's no timeline. It's not like, what's it going to cost us for him to travel up here? Yeah. And then room him and then back again. What would be the rough cost? 1,000?
It wouldn't be that much, but you're probably looking at $500 or so.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with Skype. I am too. He's already doing the work for us. I don't need to get a feel for him.
Yeah, I'm all right either way. But I can, so.
I'm good with Skype.
Well, how many would really want them up here for, if it was $500-600?
I mean, either way, I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like we're saying he's probably all right to Skype in. And if we need to, I can bring my personal laptop in. We can hook it up to the.
$500 for it.
Yeah, we can put the $500 towards a new laptop.
We could always meet at the fire department. We'd have all the luxuries.
Yeah.
Don't even start.
Nice comfy chairs and good internet.
Okay, so just going to our motion there, were you all right with the friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment, I'm fine.
All right, and you got the date in there as the 21st? 7 p.m.? All right,
Make a note to advertise, Nancy.
Yep, I will.
all those in favor? It's carried. Going to item 9.1, the Lesser Slave Lake Watershed Council request. Oh, sorry, Councillor Long.
That council approved funding to the Lesser Slave Watershed Council in the town's 2020 operating budget in the amount of $1,500.
Okay. Discussion on that? Councillor Gilroy?
Just a question for Councillor Long on this. Would that be including the idea of waiving the 105 per month, or would that be a separate issue in your mind since you made the motion?
I was thinking that we gave them in 2018 $1,000. We put it up to $1,500 this time around. Then they could use 105 of that $500 extra to.
Because 105 times 12 is what they pay us to do their payroll.
Yeah, $1,260 a year.
I'm just trying to clarify what we're actually asking for the watershed.
So what do you think would be appropriate?
I'm letting you guys talk about it more than me.
Why?
When I talked to payroll, I asked them about the waiving of the fees, and Anita wasn't very much in favor of waiving the fees. She said it's just not a matter of issuing 2 checks for the 2 employees twice a month. She said it's all the deductions and everything else that goes along with it, submittance to the government. So yeah, so it's not just a matter of cutting 4 checks per month.
Right.
So.
Okay. Any other discussion on this one? Councillor Danaka?
I just have a question. You're on the watershed, right? What is their budget from the government?
Right now, they're, I didn't bring it with me, but the problem right now is at the same time, all the watersheds have not been guaranteed their funding in that sense, the amounts that they were given. And as I said last meeting, 2 meetings ago, a number of the watersheds, while waiting, I've actually had to shut down or lay off people. This one's in good shape. We are the only one of the partners right now that does not give anything. But at the same time, there's a lot of benefit to it. They rent space on our community, so that allows the person who owns a building to pay taxes. They do payroll taxes here, and they also bring people into town to do business and that. So it's one of those ones where we have to be aware that they also provide educational opportunities for all the children in a number of schools, and there's not a price tag you can really put on this one, though we have to. So the government, they won't know the full amount for another little while. They're really pressing the minister to find out exactly what they're going to get. But right now, whatever money they do get, they are doing quite well there, and they're holding up on 8 projects, and they're not spending unless they've got the money in the bank. But they're getting a lot from the other industries because of their belief, especially in the forest industry, that they believe in the program.
It is, they do a lot of things, and water is one of those valuable resources that we need to keep an eye on, and I haven't had a lot of good data gathered here. So it's nice to have an organization that focuses on making sure there's somebody looking at our waterways and keeping an eye on it. So for, like, if it's $1,500 a year, I think that's money well spent when it comes to water and the education and the other things that we get from them. I'm fine with it.
I just want a quick question of the CEO. On the last page of Megan's letter, it says that the repairing and improvement work on the West Prairie River, which is the old recycling depot area, they spent $3,500 to date. Has that been a good investment from what you're putting the fencing up and stuff like that to
They've
protect?
improved the looks of the area. They installed the board fence, I guess it was, a rail fence on there, so. And they did clean up along over the bank, so.
The water fountains, the water refill stations and that.
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion on this one? Okay. Are we ready to vote? Okay. Yeah, it was joint. They got the grants to help with some of it. Yeah. All right, the motion was for how much again? 1,500? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. Moving on to our Canadian Championships and Western Canadian Classic. An motion on this one?
Can we just go back to the watershed?
Oh, yes.
Do we need a motion to, receive the Lesser Slave Lake to waive the monthly fee?
Oh, we could certainly do that. Yeah. It's not necessary, but we can make the motion so we're clear.
On record.
Yep, yep.
Okay. I make a motion that council receive the Lesser Slave Watershed Council's request to waive the $105 per month payroll administration fee for information.
Okay. We talked a little bit about that. Is there any other question? I see Councillor Quartley's looking a little, he's wondering about that one. So what they're saying is that we would still be charging them the money for the payroll part of it.
Therefore, the donation is $240.
Councillor Gilroy?
I know that you just spoke on it, but, and I know expenses do come up. In a sense, however council chooses to vote on this one, if it chooses to maintain it as per the advice of our CAO and admin, then our donation would be a total of $240. And if we decide not to, then it's $1,500. Just so council is aware of how that this particular motion will affect the final donation from our town.
I see Councillor Long wants to express his opinions.
I lowballed it at 1,500 because I thought council's position, because of the times the way they are right now. To be honest, I would have been much happier to go higher than the 1,500. When Councillor Gilroy explains it so well, that we're actually giving them $240, that's almost an embarrassment. The first things to get cut is education, health, and environment, and it's just a downward spiral from top to bottom. And now here we are with our tiny little budget saying, okay, we got to cut, and it's the environment. But this has, as Councillor Gilroy has mentioned, this organization does have the ability to provide an asset to the community. They pay their taxes, they have rental, they have employees that do business here and live here. It's yeah. wish I'd asked more, that's all. And I would entertain that,
Entertain what?
if we wanted to bring that forward again.
Oh. Sorry, just
Yeah.
that's all.
Well, there is the other thing. I mean, yes, there is a cost to doing their payroll. There's no doubt about that at all. I mean, there is a cost. And it's probably very close to that cost, if not maybe even a tad more away if you were to add it up and put a dollar value on it. But is it an extra cost coming out of our ratepayers' pockets? Is it an extra expense that we have? Probably not, right? It's not costing us any more to do it. There is certainly a charge, and the staff involved might be able to do something else, but it's part of their regular sort of job duty, so it gets absorbed in there. So it's not that much of a cost to our ratepayers. Councillor Gilroy.
Would we be open to a friendly amendment of maybe waiving it for a term of 1 year only? So in other words, you're just saying because of the financial impact here, we'd waive the cost for 1 year only, and then they would go back to paying the admin fee after everything settles down financially? Would anybody be in agreement with that sort of thought?
Councillor Long?
My concern for the watershed is that it is a government program, it's a government mandated program, and there's the different regions and different watershed councils in the province. And my concern is that it'll be one of the things that won't be here next year anyways. They won't get the funding. My understanding from what I've heard is that the watersheds will not be receiving their funding. And so if that's the case, the argument's moot. Another year from now, they probably won't be running. So we could try the year and see how it goes and see where they're at next time.
Okay, any other thoughts on this one? I'm in favor of giving them sort of a break on their rates, but that's everybody else's choice on that one. So we have a motion right now to receive it for information. Is there anybody else to speak just before we call the vote? Okay, we have a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? Opposed? All right. Do we want to make another motion then with this one? With that, Councillor Gilroy.
I'd be willing. I'm going to make the motion, but I'll be willing to amend it. That council waive, we'll say 50% of the 50. No, okay. Waive the $105 per month administration fee for 1 year.
Councillor Danaka.
Year 2020.
So my question is, we waive the watershed, then the museum comes in, then the library comes in, and they want us to waive their costs for the payroll. So how are you going to say that that's not setting precedence, because you can't say, well, we did it for them, but we're not going to do it for you? I'm sure the library's cost is more because they have more employees. The museum cost probably be less, but still, it costs our administration people time and effort to do this. So I think we have to be really cognizant of what we're saying when we say, okay, we'll waive this, but what are we going to do when the other groups come forward and say, well, you waived theirs, so you have to waive ours. And then we can't say, well, we don't have to, because we're not setting precedents. Yeah, you are. Because you're playing favorites. And you can't play favorites when it comes to this, when you have a group that comes forward and says, well, you waived their payroll costs, so you have to do it for us. And yeah, we have to do it for them, because we said we did it for one group. Fair is fair, so we have to do it for all of them. It's just that simple.
Councillor Stenhouse?
So, are we doing the museum and library's
Yes.
accounting?
Yes.
But the museum and library are getting 100% financing from us and the county, correct?
True, but they still have to pay for their payroll. It's included in the budget, but I understand what you're saying.
That we are already funding them, and we have an organization here who is teaching, preserving the environment, and again, getting cut by a government budget. Yet we have no problem sponsoring functions that don't do this, so why could we not cut these guys a 1-year break to do this? And we're setting a time limit on it. I totally get what you're saying, but the other organizations are already funded by us. These guys are trying to keep their head above water for 1 more year we'll see what happens. We're putting a time limit on it.
Did you have, okay?
Honestly, Michael, that's where I thought you were going with the 1,500 was to, in a roundabout way, it is waiving their fees, right? Yeah. 1,500, yeah, okay, so it's a few dollars left over. What it gives it the vision that it's a donation or sponsorship, however you want to call it. In turn, yeah, we do their books and we charge them that minimal fee, but it's a wash, right? So it does help them out. It's not embarrassing because it is substantial still. It's not the 5,000 we normally do or had. We don't have that. I think it's 1,500 and it covers their expenses plus. So I don't see anything wrong with that.
Any other comments on this one? Good debate, gets you thinking. It's got me thinking back and forth on this one. So it is, yeah, that's what we're here for. That is good, some good ideas. Good discussion. All right, we have a motion right now on the table to waive their fees for the payroll for 1 year for 2020. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Moving on to the Canadian Championships. Councillor Stenhouse.
Oh boy. I know. The council, okay, I'm going to do this. The council received the request to sponsor the banquet meals for the 2020 Canadian Championship and the Western Canadian Classic in the amount of $3,000 total and $2,000 for event costs for information.
All right. Councillor Gilroy.
Can I just have some information from the head of our rec department on how the funding for facilities, are we, in a sense, would we be giving them this money to then pay for the facilities? Or how would that work? Because if their bill for the facilities is, say, we'll say $3,000, and we're giving them $3,000, we're actually helping them pay for the facilities. So it does come back to us. And I'm just trying to figure out how that works for this one.
Can I answer?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry.
When I talked to Mr. Prevost, he asked for $3,000 to be donated towards their meal. Is what?
Sort of 3,000 meals, 2,000 additional.
Yeah.
So,
And I know council wasn't in the idea of putting the money towards payout for prizes and that, so that's why. And I had mentioned that to him, and he said no, it would go to other event stuff that is required for that purchase.
But still wondering how I'm looking in the budget and I don't see anything in here for costs of the venue. What's happening on the venue costs?
I believe the rec board had waived the fees on the venue, or a portion of the fees. Or,
I think so.
I'd have to go back and check. But
Because that is a contribution there for sure, one way or the other.
That was the sponsorship, was the fees of the event.
So do you know if this is a commitment to what was done in the past with the other, the other tournaments, or is this for moving ahead? Is that? Okay. Councillor Stenhouse?
And also looking at the budget, there's some questions I'd like answered. They have a shuttle service to Grand Prairie. So what are they shuttling back and forth to Grand Prairie?
People would fly in.
At a cost of $1,000, pardon me?
The teams that have to fly in, they're flying into Grand Prairie and then busing here.
And the horseshoe tournament has been fundraising, and they've only made $3,000 in their potential revenues. So they're asking us for $3,000, yet this is only potential for their. How much have they actually made in fundraising?
says $3,000.
So it says. Yeah, and there's.
Is that what you're asking? Is potential revenue fundraising?
Well, and they're doing things like program advertising, another 3,000. So that's a type of fundraising that would go on with that, along with it. And they're also having to work with companies to get donations. Those don't just automatically come in. So that's some of their, I would call that potential revenues is all fundraising for them. They're going to have to work to make that fundraising happen.
Are they reaching out to other communities?
It says Lethbridge Horseshoe Club is putting money toward it.
Maybe more locally.
Don't know. Councillor Danaka, then Councillor Gilroy.
Have we contributed anything so far to this for 2020?
No.
We haven't contributed anything.
No.
Okay.
The only thing that would be if the Recreation Committee had waived the fees on the rental of the facility.
Councillor Gilroy.
I noticed that under their revenue, Big Lakes County is down for $3,000, and they're asking us for a possible $5,000. Seems a little disproportionate there. If I can ask Councillor Courtley, the committee, was that the joint, the joint recreation committee that
Yes.
waived it?
Yes.
And we just talked, Councillor Danaka just brought up the idea of setting precedents. So if we waive recreation fee for that, then when Treaty 8, well, where'd the money from the sponsorship come from to do that?
I don't know the exact word.
Because I would really like to know that, because I thought part of our business plan for our rec department was that they would find ways by renting out renting out facilities to raise additional revenues to cut down on expenses. And if we do sponsor it that way, then there's a lot of other groups, I think, if we're setting precedents, that will want it donated as a sponsorship as well. Treaty 8, Powwow, a whole bunch of other ones that, quote, bring people into the community as well. You better be careful.
I'll just comment that, it is a sort of the Canadian horseshoe tournament. So these are guys coming in from across Canada to do this. So it is a good feather in the cap of High Prairie to be able to host this. Yes, there is some question certainly about what should be, the town's contribution to it and how much it is, and we still don't really know what we're contributing, and that would be nice to know, but it will bring people into our town. It will certainly put us on the map, because I bet you there's, people that haven't even heard of High Prairie are going to be coming into High Prairie and getting a chance to see our area, and hopefully we can sell them on our region, and maybe somebody might come back here or open a business here, or who knows, maybe, we might get something out of it. We're getting, and I don't know how many people come down to this, how many participants, but it is a bit of a big deal to have them coming here, for sure.
Mr. Prevost put a lot of work into this, and we sent him back with that concern that the money was going to be used towards, and we didn't want the money to be used towards prizes. And he's confirmed that to us, and now we're debating whether he's even going to get that now. And he's done a lot of work, and there's a lot of people across Canada now that are coming here. That's their whole anticipation, is to come here. And it's not apples to apples. And that's why I always say that it doesn't necessarily mean we're setting precedents. We have a Western Classic and the Canadian Nationals coming here because of one man's determination to make it happen. And we're going to stop it and say, no, we're not going to give you that.
Councillor Danaka.
Excuse me. This amount that's here with what's remaining in our grants to individuals, is that the up-to-date today's number?
Yeah.
Okay.
It may be short $500 from the last council meeting, but whatever, it's still.
So, Brian, what you're discussing here is that it'd be coming out of the 2019 budget?
Yes.
Which we still have room for in there.
Yes.
Yep. No, it could go into one of our reserve funds. Yep. Okay, any more discussion on this one? We have a motion to receive this request for information. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that motion is defeated. Would somebody like to make another motion, Councillor Gilroy?
I'm not sure you like this one, but I want to cap the donation at the $3,000. Same as the county is paying. So, what is the 3,000 for again? Okay, the council sponsor the banquet meals for the 2020 Canadian Championships in the amount of $3,000 is what I would like to make my motion for.
Okay, and our CAO had a point to bring up.
I just wanted to bring to Councillor Gilroy's attention that the Big Lakes County sponsorship of $3,000 was to the 2020 Canadian Championships only, not to the Westerns. So I don't know if Mr. Prevost is going back to asking them for additional funding.
There's two tournaments.
Two tournaments, and they're back to back. So when these guys come in for the Canadian Championships, they'll probably also be pitching in the Western. So they're going to be here basically for, I believe he said, 10 days in our community to cover the both weekends.
Yeah, they're the first tournament, the Western Canadian Championships would be August 14th to 16th, and then the next weekend, the 19th to the 22nd. It would be, well, it's not actually a full weekend there, but yeah, it'd probably be that's the Canadian Championships the next weekend. So the people that won in the Westerns would probably hang around, and those that didn't would go home and go from there. Councillor Gilroy?
After consideration, I'll change that to $5,000, but letting council know, we better have really good signage. For $5,000, I want to make sure our town is well represented in giving out things that remind people that this is not high level, and this is not high river, this is high prairie. So if we're given $5,000, I want to make sure that everywhere they see our town is that they remember it. I'm just...
Okay. So what your motion is then is the
$5,000.
the recommended that's that's listed in the package, just to be sure. It's the $3,000 towards meals and the $2,000 for event costs, excluding prizes.
Yeah, option one.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's what your motion is. Any other discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And we will do one more, and then we'll take a break. We'll go to the use of force policy. Get a motion on that one, please. Councillor Long?
The council approves the policy 77-2019 force abuse policy.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to our constable to fill us in on this one.
Okay, just for the council's info, the peace officer program for High Prairie went through an audit today. For the Solicitor General sent up 2 auditors to review our program. But this particular policy was brought to my attention prior to them attending. They wanted us to comply with the Act. Because we carry the tools, we have to have the policy to the reasons where do we store them, where we keep them, and stuff like that. So this is why the policy was drafted, and this is why the policy is required as a request of the Solgen. So, as a result, they reviewed it again today. They were more than happy with it, but they suggested a couple minor changes, just some wording and stuff. But other than that, they were happy with it. So.
Okay. Where did this come from? Did they supply it and you customized it, or was it from another community's policy?
Another community, and I just
tweaked it.
tweaked it for our.
Okay. Councillor Danaka?
Well, if there's amendments or changes to be made to this, I think it should go back and get the proper changes that you're referring, and then bring it back when it's complete.
I'm fine with that. It's what council desires. There's also probably 2 more policies that are going to be coming forward too. So I can include that with all 3.
Well, I'm just, as Councillor Danaka mentioned, we can't really approve this policy if there's changes that need to be made.
No, fair enough.
Probably should see them if you know that there's changes you want to make.
We didn't realize there was changes until we met with him, but it was already in the agenda.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. So I'll have the changes. Actually, I've done the changes already, and I'll just have it on to the next council meeting in January.
Okay, so yeah, there isn't a rush to push this through then, obviously.
No, they were satisfied that it's at the draft stage. They know it's in the works. I told them it was coming to council tonight, so they were happy with that.
Okay, so just looking for some advice, we want to, in essence, we're tabling this,
Yes.
right? So
You defeat this.
we would defeat this motion, and do we need a motion to table this, or you would just bring it back?
Motion to bring it back next meeting or return to it.
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm
that it doesn't
wondering.
get lost.
Yeah, we should have a motion maybe to bring it back, but,
I mean, we could.
yeah.
It's our CAO could direct.
Yeah, well, let's go this, we'll make the first motion to defeat it, and then we'll make a motion to bring back an amended copy.
Altogether?
Yeah, we could, that was Councillor Long that made the motion, could withdraw his, and,
I'll definitely withdraw it, no problem.
okay, and then would you like to make a new motion? To, bring back the amended policy?
Yes. Well done.
Did you get that, Nancy?
Yeah.
Awesome, buddy.
Okay, has everybody followed that change? He withdrew his motion and is now asking it to be brought back with the amendments?
Yes.
Okay, all those in, sorry, before we vote, there was a question, sorry.
Procedure.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about.
Table shall mean a motion to delay consideration of any matter in order to deal with more pressing matters, which does not set a time to resume consideration of the matter. Unless tabled to a time specific, any item not raised from the table before the meeting is adjourned is deemed lost.
So we're not tabling, he's withdrawn his motion.
Okay.
He's made a motion to bring back this
Okay.
policy with
The
amendments.
amendments to the future. Okay, that works.
Thank you.
But that's good following up, okay? Any other discussion on his new motion? All those in favor? Good. Let's take a little break and then we'll finish up.